Hey platform, it's Rowan. I'm here with Camryn Garrett and we are going to be talking about her new book, Full Disclosure, which she published when she was only 19. So we'll get the lowdown on how that experience was. Have you always wanted to write? Was that something that you kind of felt at a really early age, or was it something that came a little bit later for you?
I think I always wanted to. I wanted to be a lot of things, like an artist, and I think a dentist at some point.
Of course,
which is
yeah.
weird.
Like a writing, drawing dentist.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I feel like when you're little, everyone wants to be like a million things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I always kind of wanted to be a writer, and I used to write fanfiction in notebooks.
Oh, can I ask what you were
So when I was little, like 5, I wrote fanfiction of The Adventures of Sharkboy and Lava Girl, which is a very bad movie by Robert Rodriguez.
Very bad movie. How dare you? An incredible piece of cinematic history.
I loved it, and I wrote like a sequel. And then as I got a little older, I wrote like Disney Channel original movie
Classic.
And then Glee.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Glee was big.
Obviously.
And then I wrote like a mashup of Steve and Bucky from Captain America and Big Hero 6, and I'm not quite sure why, but
I was like, Steve and Bucky. I was like, yeah, Big Hero 6. Yeah. Wait, what? Amazing. That's incredible. I love that. I love that journey for you as a writer. You were like, you know what? I'm dipping into different genres. We're going with different kinds of vibes here. Like straight from like action, we're gonna go to musicals. It's gonna be like all over the place.
It's my genius. I know. But yeah, and then I think writing fanfic made me think that I could write something longer and something that was like mine.
So, I mean, did you find it useful, I guess, like writing fanfiction in terms of like developing yourself as a writer? Do you find that helpful?
Definitely. I think that like not a lot of people give fanfiction credit for like developing people's skills. I remember when I first started writing fanfic, like on fanfiction.com, there was one reviewer who constantly left like constructive feedback. Like I feel like reviews or comments are usually like, oh my god, like write a new chapter, they're so cute or whatever. But they were constantly like, I wonder what's happening here. I wonder what this person's thinking. I wonder why you included this. And they did it in a way that wasn't scary. It was very like open and sort of suggestive and welcoming. So that really got me into editing, where I never edited before.
Were you also doing writing like at school for projects there as well?
Yeah, I wrote, I was really good at writing essays. And then we had some school contests that I won. But I wasn't really interested in like school contests. I wanted to like do something big.
Something outside of that.
Yeah.
Did you find that like the constructive feedback you got from like teachers and from those kind of like, I guess, adult figures in your life had as much of an impact as the stuff you were getting from, I guess, people who were reading the stuff that you were really excited about, which is like at that point fanfiction?
I think the fanfic impacted me more because I wasn't writing the sort of stuff that I wanted to write in school generally. Like I wasn't writing, like romances and then turning them into teachers. Whereas I was writing the stuff I sort of really loved and wanted to make in the fanfic, and that's when people were like, well, maybe you should do this, and maybe you should do that.
Did you think, I mean, you obviously got published when you were much younger than most people get published. Was that something that was like a draw to you? Were you like, oh, I'd really love to get published when I was young? Or was it just like, oh, well, I guess I have a book, like and I'm 18, like I guess this is gonna happen? No, I really wanted it. So I was 13, and in class we read The Outsiders, and The Outsiders was written when the author was 16. So I thought, okay, I was like, this book isn't that great, so I can do this. And it was sort of like a pressure that I put on myself, and I really stressed myself out. And then I think when I was 17, I was like, okay, like I'm tired, I'm just gonna chill. And that was when I wrote the book that got published. How long did it take?
I think like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. Because I wrote it when I was 17, but I was just about to turn 18. So it was like a month before I turned 18. So it was definitely like a year and a half, because I'm 19 now. You were like, the deadline's coming up, gotta make it. No, because like, and that's interesting, because when I was younger, I would have thought that like, I need this deadline by the time I'm no longer 18, I need this. By the time I was that age, maybe it was like college applications or something, I was just like, I want to write because it's fun, and I don't want it to stress me out. And if this works out, it works out. And if it doesn't, then I'll try again. And
it's not the end of the world. And then it happened, so it's funny though. Yeah.
When you write a book, you've done it, you've written it, it's there. What happened next?
Like, so after you write the first draft, I edit it myself because I write really fast first drafts, like in a month, and I don't look back at any of it, and it's all really messy, and I know what I want it to look like, so I don't let anyone read it until I've edited it. And then I sent it to some of my friends and asked them for notes, and then I edited more, and then I thought, wow, this is really set, this is good. So then I queried an agent to write like a summary letter and ask them to represent you, and then send them the book, and I did that. So when you query, you have to write a letter, and the letter usually is like a summary, or not even a summary, it's like a tease, like a pitch, and then a little bit about yourself, and you try to personalize it for each agent. And you send them out, and usually you send it out with maybe like 10 pages from your book, and if an agent likes it, they will request more, and then they read it, you wait a really long time, and then they will offer representation. And usually you go to the other agents you queried and say, I got an offer of representation. Will you also represent me? And it's sort of like there might be a war over you, which is fun. But
how did you choose who to go with?
So there are so many like websites dedicated to querying. Like there are lists of like best agents, blah blah blah. But I honestly went through a lot of what's fun is looking at the books that you really like and then looking at who represents that author and querying them. So Bree, my agent, represented Cody Keplinger, who wrote The Duff, and I thought she was really great. She had a great reputation for YA, and I queried her when I was 15, and she rejected me. So I queried her again, and it's funny because when she called me offering to represent me, she was like, didn't you query me once, like 3 years ago? And I was like, please, let's not talk about that. This book was so bad. Let's pretend it didn't happen. But yeah, and also interacting with people online, so I use some agents from Twitter or from their clients and things like that. And it's funny because usually it takes like a couple of months to just start hearing back. And I got an offer from my editor the day after we went out. Ooh. So I was very shocked. Like when my agent called me, I figured it was gonna be like there was a problem or whatever. And she called me and said there was an offer, and I freaked out.
So I guess you've got like you're younger, you want to be a writer, you're writing different stuff, and maybe you're writing fanfiction or things that you're being told to write about in school. How do you then break out of that and decide to write something that like you really want to write that's like original and different?
It was really hard for me at first because I didn't have any ideas. And like, I think this is a common thing for new writers where you sort of write your favorite stuff. You rewrite your favorite stuff. So like, I sort of rewrote Percy Jackson, and with me as the lead, you know? And then rewrote, and sort of like trying to copy people. So like Twilight with mermaids. And because I think it's hard when you first start because you're really modeling everything off your favorite authors. And it took me a while to find ideas that I actually liked and that were actually original. And I think that took a lot of like reading and then seeing what was being published and thinking of like, oh, this fits into this genre, as opposed to just like copying.
Totally. So how did you come up with the idea, or I guess maybe even ideas that came together to become Full Disclosure?
So it's kind of like multiple things. It was mainly, I was really into Angelina Jolie. And she, her first daughter, she adopted from Ethiopia, and when they brought her back home, she was very sick, and they thought she had HIV. And Angelina Jolie said, I don't care, like, we're still family, I still love her, and I was very ignorant about HIV at the time, so I thought, you know, if you adopt this baby, she's going to die. Why would you do that? And I sort of went down a rabbit hole in reading these adoption blogs written by parents who had adopted HIV-positive kids. And it was so different for me because they talked about medication, but they really were talking about it as if it were something like diabetes or asthma, where it wasn't that big of a deal. And the only twist was that a lot of the blogs were really Christian, really religious. So they'd say things like, well, my daughter won't have to worry about disclosing to anyone until she gets married, because that's when she's having sex. And I was thinking, well, I don't know if that's necessarily what every teen does.
Yeah.
And that was really what made me interested in exploring that idea of like a teenager who wants to have sex with his HIV.
Interesting. So in terms of that was, I guess, like the kind of plot impetus. How do you come up with the characters? How do they come to life for you?
So I think that it comes from a lot of different places, like people you've met, other characters you like, your friends, and yourself. So I think mainly the main characters in this book were based on my friends and me, and then sort of branched out. And I think in the first draft they were very like two-dimensional, and then the more you revise, the more they come alive. It's like, well, what if she loved theater? What if she loved this? What type of fan would she be? And I sort of do like fanfic exercises where like sometimes fanfic writers post stuff on Tumblr and Twitter, like sort of like prompts. And they'll be like, write your character in this situation, or write your favorite character from this show in this situation. And I would write my character in that, or think of her in that. And it helped me figure out how she thinks and how she'd react to certain things. And that's another way fanfic sort of helps.
Did you know, like, when you started writing, cool, I planned it all out, it's all plotted, I know exactly what's going to happen, I just have to write it? Or were you just like, let's see where this goes? Like, I know what the character is, I don't know how this is going to end, let's see what happens.
It was sort of in between. By then, I had written only 3 other books. I'd written a lot that I stopped and started, but I think 3 like full ones. So I sort of had a process. And I'd write plot points, but they weren't very involved. So I was like, I know this needs to happen to get to the end.
Yeah.
But then I left myself a lot of space to like explore and mess around. So I personally feel like first drafts are where you get to figure things out. You get to figure out what the characters are like, and you know, maybe the plot isn't working the way you planned, so you fix it then.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the best parts about writing.
So one of the things we get asked about a lot when people ask, like, we've asked like, oh, what writing advice would you like to get from authors, is how do you work out what the big problem is, or the big stakes are in there? Like, how do you make it so it's still exciting that people find it? For you, I mean, obviously not giving away any spoilers for the book, but like, how did you come up with that for your characters?
I think the best thing, and the stuff I write is very character-centric, so I think the best thing is to think about what your character wants, even if they don't explicitly know it. Like, what are they seeking, what are they yearning for, and make it as hard as possible for them to get it. And that's sort of where you get your stakes, where you get your problem. Like, it's I feel like very basic plot structure. Like, this person wants something, they can't get it because of these problems. And then at the end, do they get it or do they not? And then it gets more complicated the more you add to it.
How did you think about, because we talked before about the idea of like fan fiction and fitting into other people's ideas and copying other people's ideas. How far were you thinking about different books that were similar to yours in terms of like being in a similar genre, like tropes of romance or tropes of like high school kind of stuff? Was that something you were like thinking about or deliberately trying to avoid?
I think part of it was being aware of it, and then specifically, you know, the characters, the main character and her love interest are Black, just sort of like toying with tropes that I didn't really see Black people in. Like, the love interest is like a jock boy next door sort of thing, and I don't feel like you see Black boys like that a lot. And if you do, they're usually not dating Black girls. So that was something I was conscious of. And there are little things I want to avoid, sort of like, I feel like an old trope that sometimes still appears is like, a guy says, you're not like other girls, and that's why I want to be with you.
A classic.
Yeah, so stuff I wanted to avoid, but also stuff I wanted to play with.
So you've written the book, you've found an agent, you've gone to a publisher, the publisher is now publishing it, the book is coming out. I mean, well, first of all, what was it like when you like first held the book in your hands?
I think it's really, so like, you get advanced readers copies, which are like not fake versions of the book, but it's like early versions, so not, your edits haven't all been done, and they're sent out to like bloggers and people you want to review the book. So I had those, and I sort of thought, well, like, I can't get much better than this, because like
it's here. Everything, my words are here.
Exactly. So I was like, this is the thing. But getting the real actual copy made me very emotional, especially seeing it in bookstores, because I feel like it's different holding it and looking at it in your room, and then going out and seeing it and seeing people look at it and read the back of it. It's very surreal.
How is it? Is it different? Or do you feel different hearing people's feedback now to this book than you did to the feedback that you got when you were younger to like fan fiction and to school assignments and stuff? Like, do you think about it differently?
I don't. I actually think writing fanfic and then moving on to write books and getting feedback on that helps with school and helped me when I got comments in high school, and then now that I'm in college and I go to film school and you get feedback, and a lot of times like my friends will be really upset and I'm not, because I think I've gone through this multiple times and I'm just like, it's just, you don't have to take them, and they're objective, they're not hurting you.
So when at the moment you're over here in the UK at the moment, you're obviously based in America.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff has been happening to you since you've done a book, you've written a book, you have physical copies of the book now? What's that been like afterwards, like to being an author, I guess?
It's definitely odd, and there's been like a flurry of events and like press, and so that definitely feels like an out of body experience. I think what's fun for me, especially the first week it came out, was going to all the bookstores around like my apartment and seeing the book there. I was very nerdy, and I would just walk into bookstores, go directly to the young adult section, look at my book, like tear up, and then leave and not buy anything. And I kept doing that, and I think people work there getting tired of me, but it was just like so surreal. And you think like I've been working 2+ years on this, and now it's here, and now it's real, and you try very hard not to recommend your book to like the people browsing in the aisles, but it's kind of validating.
So we hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to hear more about full disclosure, we're going to leave a link in the description, and in the comments if you are an aspiring writer, we would love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe for more bookish videos.